Another big step today towards setting up a U.S.-North Korea summit. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo held talks in New York City with North Korea's envoy Kim Yong-chul and reported real progress. Pompeo said that tomorrow Mr. Kim will deliver a letter to President Trump from North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. We'll have a full report after the news summary. In the day's second leading story, the Trump administration formally imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imported from the European Union, Canada, and Mexico. Levies of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum were first announced in March, but delayed pending negotiations. U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross suggested further talks might yet make a difference.
We look forward to continued negotiations both with Canada and Mexico on the one hand and with the European Commission on the other hand, because there are other issues that we also need to get resolved.
In turn, Mexico announced retaliatory tariffs on U.S. farm products. Canada said that it is imposing new tariffs on steel and aluminum that it imports from the U.S. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, alongside his foreign minister, declared Washington's actions are totally unacceptable.
Canada buys more American steel than any other country in the world. Indeed, we account for half of U.S. exports, U.S. steel exports. That Canada could be considered a national security threat to the United States is inconceivable.
The European Union also condemned the U.S. tariffs and said that it will respond in kind. We'll talk with the EU ambassador to Washington in just a few minutes. In the day's other news, President Trump pardoned conservative author and critic of President Obama, Dinesh D'Souza. D'Souza had made illegal campaign contributions and had been sentenced to 5 years of federal probation in 2014. Mr. Trump also said he might commute the sentence of Rod Blagojevich, the former Democratic governor of Illinois. He is currently serving 14 years in prison for corruption. And the president talked of pardoning businesswoman Martha Stewart. She served 5 months in prison, stemming from a sale of stock before the price plunged. President Trump traveled to Texas today and met with families of those who died in the Santa Fe school shooting. Governor Greg Abbott and Republican Senator Ted Cruz were on hand as Air Force One touched down in Houston. The meeting with families was private. Later, the president went on to a series of campaign fundraising events in Houston and in Dallas. Mr. Trump claimed again today that ousting FBI Director James Comey had nothing to do with the Russia investigation. He tweeted, "Not that it matters, but I never fired James Comey because of Russia." In fact, he has previously said the opposite at least twice. The first time came within days of Comey's dismissal in May of last year.
Regardless of recommendation, I was going to fire Comey, knowing there was no good time to do it. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. It's an excuse by the Democrats for having lost an election that they should have won.
Special counsel Robert Mueller is now investigating the Comey firing as possible obstruction of justice. Comedian Samantha Bee apologized today for calling the president's daughter, Ivanka, a sexual obscenity. It happened last night on Full Frontal, Bee's show on TBS. The White House condemned the comment as, quote, vile and vicious. In a Twitter statement later, Bee said her language was inexcusable, and she wrote, "I crossed a line and I deeply regret it." Earlier this week, ABC fired Roseanne Barr over a racist tweet about a former Obama advisor. In Syria, President Bashar al-Assad threatened to attack Kurdish fighters in the northeast, and he warned 2,000 U.S. troops aiding the Kurds against ISIS to go home. Assad also wants to recapture territory in southwest Syria, near the Israeli border, with the aid of Iran and allied groups. In Moscow today, the Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman warned Russian leaders that Israel will not accept Iranian forces near its border. The Supreme Court of China today overturned the fraud conviction of a retail tycoon. Zhang Wenxiang was released in February after 12 years in prison. The court called his case a misapplication of the law. The decision came as the ruling Communist Party tries to reassure nervous business leaders. Back in this country, Sears is closing another 72 stores to stem financial losses. That will leave the company with 800 outlets, down from a peak of 4,000 back in 2012. And on Wall Street, stocks fell today on worries about the budding tariff war. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 252 points to close at 24,415. The Nasdaq fell 20, and the S&P 500 gave up 18. Still to come on the NewsHour, the EU ambassador responds to new taxes on Europe's exports to the U.S. And an immigration crackdown. We speak to the outgoing Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The economic consequences of educating women, and much more.